Eniola Shobowale. Our main stories now. Several people have been killed in Somalia after a bomb explosion near a hotel close to the international airport in Mogadishu. Medical officials at the city's Medina hospital says they have received bodies and 30 people with injuries, 17 of them in serious condition. However, there are fears that the death toll could go up further. Islamist group Al-Shabaab, which is trying to topple Somalia's UN-backed government, has claimed responsibility for the attack. Eyewitnesses say the blast went off at the first checkpoint on the road that leads to Mogadishu Airport. Somalia has been driven by civil war since 1991, when clan warlords overthrew a dictator, then turned on each other. Now, at least 25 people have died in clashes between Ethiopian security forces and activists in southern Ethiopia. Hospital officials say security forces fired bullets during the protest across the Sidama region. Activists from the Sidama ethnic group were set to declare their own federal state on Thursday last week. They accused the government of failing to hold a promised referendum on the issue. The Sidama are Ethiopia's fifth biggest ethnic group, making up 4% of the population, and are mainly based in the southern nation's nationalities and people's regional state. The four bigger communities all have their own regions within Ethiopia's ethnically based federal system. Now, over the weekend, British Airways cancelled all flights to the Egyptian capital, Cairo, for a week over unspecified security concerns after the British government warned of a heightened risk of terrorism against aviation. German airline Lufthansa also cancelled its flights but resumed on Sunday. The airline called the suspension a precaution due to an unclear security situation in Cairo. As a result, hundreds of people have been affected by this. The announcement by two of Europe's biggest airlines caught some passengers off guard as they prepared to board their flights. A spokesperson for Cairo's airport was apparently taken by surprise too, saying the airport had not yet heard of the changes from British Airways. Let's bring in the VOA's Edward Yeranayan in Cairo to discuss more on this. Ed, thank you for joining us on Network Africa. Do we have any idea what this unspecified security concern that led to this action was, and what's the mood like in the country now?
Well, Kenny, the Egyptian Aviation Ministry is saying that they really had no information about anything that the British government was upset about because they had sent a team to Cairo airport on Thursday and Friday to assess security. And the airline itself says it's not. So officially, there's really nothing to go on. Unofficially, I spoke with one of the passengers on British Airways who came from this and was due to go back tomorrow. She said they had problems with the plane on the way over, and that they had to remove baggage and other items from the cargo because the plane needed to be lightened. So she thinks, or her husband thinks, that it's possibly a problem with the plane and they need a week to examine the planes, and they don't want to suggest to passengers that it's their fault, so they're just blaming Egypt for security problems.
A really weird situation. But how are passengers managing this? I know a lot of people will, of course, be stranded.
Well, the Egyptian side, Egyptian Airways, has been making more flights available and using larger planes. So they are transporting the passengers that were not able to go on British Airways. And I know another passenger who was originally scheduled to fly on British Airways, and she ultimately flew on Lufthansa, and she is undoubtedly happy that she made that choice since Lufthansa is still flying.
All right, then, VOA's Edward Yeranian, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that story. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Now, in East Africa, Kenya's finance minister has surrendered himself to the police after the chief prosecutor ordered his arrest over allegations of corruption. Henry Rotich is accused of flouting procurement procedures and awarding a contract worth over $450 million for the construction of 2 dams to the Italian company CMC de Ravenna. In March, Mr. Rotich denied any wrongdoing in a large newspaper advert. Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, is also investigating how the tender was awarded for $170 million more than was in the original contract. He has ordered the arrest of more than 20 other people accused of being involved in the contract, including other top officials and the directors of CMC de Ravenna. Joining us now is Cyrus Mbati, a Kenyan journalist, to tell us more on this. Thank you for joining us, Cyprus. What more can you tell us about this case?
Good evening there. First of all, I want to set the record say that the CS, the Cabinet Secretary or the Minister for Treasury did not surrender. He was arrested from his home. The arrest for over these scandal of dams in Kenya is not something new that Kenyans are surprised of. It has been ongoing. It has been an ongoing investigation here, and now it was a climax that the prosecution has decided to prosecute the Minister for Treasury, his principal secretary, and a number of senior officials who were involved in the whole scandal. So, in as much as he has been denying any wrongdoing, the same as Mr. Rotich, it was known, rather it was clear that he flouted many rules here and there. And this is given what the investigators had actually established in an investigation that had going on here in Kenya, Italy, UK, and Dubai. So it was news to some, and it was a surprise to some.
Well, what has the reaction been generally, especially when he denied any wrongdoing earlier with a newspaper advert in March?
If I may start again, so far out of the 28 people who are supposed to be arrested, we understand around 10 of them have been arrested, including the Minister for Finance, who is Henry Rotich, his Principal Secretary, Kamau Thuge, and a number of officials who are involved in the whole scandal. Remember, these are top officials in the government, and it's likely to cause a reshuffle in the cabinet at large. So there's no doubt that there will be a reshuffle in the coming days. So far, others are being sought for prosecution, which is going to take place tomorrow. The prosecution has lined up a number of charges against these officials, and we're waiting to see what will happen. But then in the meantime, those arrested so far will spend their night in custody. They include the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, Mr. Henry Rotich. Remember, he's a Harvard school ex-student, and he's one of the most touted or rather educated guys around, we know, in terms of finance issues.
Well, the prosecutors ordered the arrest of over 20 people, like you mentioned. What is likely to be their fate now?
Well, those who are going to be arrested, or some who have been arrested, are going to spend their nights in custody until tomorrow, when they will be prosecuted in court. Many teams of police have been sent outside there to look for those who are yet to be arrested for preparations for prosecution. There's no doubt about that. And those who fail to appear, there will be warrants. Then we understand Kenya has also asked the countries like Italy, UK, and Dubai, where some of the suspects who are involved are living, they could be foreigners, to be prosecuted there. The DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution, the head of the criminal investigation here in Kenya, were in Italy and Dubai in the last 2 weeks, and they just came back at the weekend on Saturday with the number of dossier which they actually were compiling, and made a conclusion to prosecute those guys in Kenya. So there's no doubt they will take a plea tomorrow.
All right, Kenyan journalist Cyprus Mbati, thank you so much for your reporting. Now, let's get a summary of the stories and happenings that happened over the weekend.
On Friday, the African Union called for an immediate international action to deal with the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has lingered for almost 1 year with a high number of casualties. On July 17, the World Health Organization declared Ebola in the DR Congo as a public health emergency of international concern. The same day when 10 new cases were confirmed in Beni, Butembo, Mandima, Vuhuvi, and Mutwanga health zones. Speaking at the AU headquarters in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, John Nkengansong, director of the Africa Center for Disease Control, said 2,522 cases had been confirmed and 1,705 deaths registered as of July 18 this year in the country.
The outbreak is serious, unusual, unexpected, and is spreading, and carries implications for public health beyond the affected states' national borders and require international action.
The latest round of outbreak has been limited mainly to North Kivu and Ituri provinces, and one case was recently reported in Goma, a city of about 1.5 million people and about 2 kilometers from the nearest city in Rwanda. On Saturday, British Airways and Lufthansa abruptly suspended flights to Cairo over security concerns, but giving no details about what may have prompted the move. In a statement, British Airways said it constantly reviews its security arrangement at all airports around the world and have suspended flights to Cairo for 7 days as a precaution to allow for further assessment. Lufthansa later said it had cancelled its flights to Cairo on Saturday from Munich and Frankfurt, but resumed on Sunday. British Airways, a unit of IAG, also said it would never operate an aircraft unless it was safe to do so. The British government has long advised against all but essential travel by air to and from the Egyptian resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, where a Russian passenger jet was bombed in 2015, but has not issued similar warnings against the air travel to and from Cairo. Senegal's national soccer team returned home to a presidential welcome on Saturday despite losing to Algeria at the Africa Cup of Nations final. Senegal supporters thronged the streets from the airport all the way to the presidential palace on a triumphant 16-kilometer drive that took them 4 hours as they weaved through the crowds. At the presidential palace, the team was presented to the fans by President Macky Sall, who said the squad should use the loss as a learning experience to help them win the next AFCON in 2 years' time. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of cheering crowds lined the streets of Algiers to welcome home the nation's soccer team, winners of the Africa Cup of Nations after 29 years. Algeria won the Africa Cup of Nations for the second time after a freak second-minute goal by Baghdad Bouneja gave them a 1-0 win over gallant Senegal in the final. Many proud Algerians also celebrated their victory in Paris and London. The final whistle provoked wild celebrations among the large contingent of traveling Algerian fans. It was a fitting end to a tournament that, with 24 teams for the first time, produced plentiful drama.
Still to come on the program. Street art brings a pop of color to Casablanca as local and international artists paint the walls in Morocco as part of an annual street art festival. Please stay with us.